Okay, Miata project here. What happened was this bearing that we've since replaced, it's a tensioner bearing for the timing belt. Exploded basically. Here's what it looks like now. Basically exploded, causing the timing belt to get loose. Skipped a couple teeth and the timing got off. Car was running really bad, making a lot of noise. So Clay did a compression check and cylinder 4 was showing no compression. So we decided to pull the head and see what was going on. He pulled the head. Thankfully, no damage to the block or to the head, but we discovered the bearing. We've since replaced with a new timing belt, new bearings here. We've taken this opportunity Clay is going to do all the valve guides on the head. And since the head is off, we also noticed it's very easy to access the top of the transmission bolts, which are normally very difficult to get to. So since all this is off, we have a new clutch sitting on the shelf and we've been meaning to do it. Well, guess what? Now we're gonna do it since all this is apart anyway. And Clay's friend Matthew was nice enough to loan us his header, which we're gonna replace our stock downpipe and exhaust manifold with the header temporarily. Once we gather the turbo parts and we're gonna put the turbo on the car, then we'll give him his header back and we'll have a turbo exhaust manifold there. So anyway, stay tuned, more to come. All right, so Clay, what are we doing right now with the cams?
Well, as you can see, I just popped off the exhaust cam here and I'm starting to take off the buckets because we are doing a whole valve job on this head. I'm gonna pop off these buckets like here. The Miata has solid lifters, so you can just use the magnet, pulls right out. There's your bucket. The little metal centerpiece in there is the shim. My buckets and shims look like they're in good shape. This head is in pretty rough shape, but that's why we're tearing it apart. And then under here you can see the actual valve. Down there what we're trying to get to is the valve seals to replace, and I'm also gonna lap the valves, which is basically grinding them down so they have a better mating surface. But first they gotta get all these buckets out.
Cool, we'll carry on. Okay, just to give you an update on where we are so far. As you can see, we finally got the transmission out. What happened was there was a few bolts over here connected to the starter that refused to come out, even with 1,100 foot-pounds of torque on the impact. Wouldn't come out, so here's what I had to do. I had to destroy the starter in order to get those bolts out. So here you can see the stock clutch, which really doesn't look too bad. The flywheel wasn't too bad. We ended up getting it resurfaced. So you can see we had it resurfaced at a local machine shop. We did notice our shifter rebuild. Some of the bushings had disintegrated, so we're redoing that. And we're gonna clean up the transmission really good. What we do have is we got new motor mounts because we noticed once the motor was loose, look at this. See how loose that is? That should definitely not be that way. So we have new motor mounts that are going on today. And Clay has just about done rebuilding the head. Here you can see he's got all his valves and springs and everything all nicely organized. And so we will update you more as soon as we get some of that done, so stay tuned. Okay, the new motor mounts are in, and it's a good thing too, because as you can see here, the old motor mount, one was all warped and the other one was just completely broken. So the left side of the motor was not being held down at all. We got the transmission cleaned up, so that's pretty nice and clean on the inside and the outside. So tomorrow the throwout bearing comes in And so we'll get the clutch and pressure plate installed. We already put the flywheel on. That had to be torqued to 95 foot-pounds, all the bolts there. And I'll let you see here. There you can see the flywheel's mounted, ready to go. It's been resurfaced. Once the throwout bearing comes in tomorrow, we'll get everything installed and we'll move on to the next step. So stay tuned. Okay, here's an update. We did get the transmission in and also the drive shaft. Got all this buttoned up under here. So all that is left to do is fill up the transmission with fluid and then fix a few leaks in the mid pipe on the exhaust. And then I have to make a small custom section on the exhaust that goes from that mid pipe over to our new header, which has a slightly different end than the factory downpipe. And Clay just has to finish the head. We have one part coming in, which is this little cap here on the end we're replacing. And then Clay is gonna button up the head. And then we will get it all put back into the motor, into the engine bay. Here's our new starter. And hopefully we should get this buttoned up by tomorrow. That is the plan, but we'll just have to wait and see. So did a little reorganizing of the tools. And we'll check back in tomorrow with the progress. Okay, made a lot of progress today. The midsection is back on, transmission has fluid. Clay has the ARP head studs now in the head with the new head gasket. And as you can see, the starter's in there, so now we're getting ready to throw the head on. Clay tightened down the cam, put the intake on there. And now he's just lubing up the washers for the head studs. And we're getting close, getting real close. So next video, you'll probably see the head assembled, or the head back on the block. Got the motor put back together. And exhaust on, so I'm getting ready to fire it here. Alive. So now we're going to work on tuning it and we'll go from there. Stay tuned. Okay, as you can see, the car is running. Everything is working good. The only thing is we still have to do the tuning because the car is not sure what to do with these new injectors and it's running a little rough at the moment, but the computer tuning with the on the Mega Squirt standalone should solve all that. Clay, I think, is going to work on that later today. So it's good news. Everything worked out well, and Dusty's happy because her car gets to go back in the garage now. So hope you enjoyed watching this, and stay tuned for the next project.